The galaxy is losing the war.
Pipe.
Clear the engagement zone. One ship is enough.
We're losing the war, the galaxy cried. So humans sent a single warship. The Coalition War Council had been in continuous session for 11 days when the final tally from the Ithara Front arrived. Fleet Marshal Denna Voth read it twice before she could bring herself to speak it aloud. Third Fleet is gone, she said. Not retreated. Gone. The Skarn advance took the entire Ithara sector in 6 days. At this rate, they reached the Coalition capital in under 3 weeks. The chamber erupted into the particular kind of chaos that only comes from people who have run out of good options, and are beginning to discover they have run out of bad ones too. Delegates from a dozen member worlds shouted over each other, demanding immediate mobilization, demanding negotiation, demanding anything that might slow the Skarn Ascendancy's relentless, mechanized advance through Coalition space. The Skarn did not negotiate. Everyone in the chamber knew that. They simply took what they wanted, methodically, world by world. And the Coalition's combined fleets, 3 centuries of accumulated military doctrine, hundreds of thousands of ships, had failed to slow them by more than a matter of days. We're losing the war, Ambassador Cathis Oram said, quiet enough that it cut through the noise better than shouting could have. I don't think anyone in this chamber can honestly argue otherwise anymore. It was Voth who finally raised the question nobody wanted to ask. What about the humans? The chamber went briefly very quiet. Earth had joined the Coalition only 4 years earlier. A provisional member still finding its place among species with centuries of established galactic standing. Human forces had fought alongside Coalition fleets in a handful of border skirmishes. Competent but unremarkable. A young species still calibrating itself to the scale of interstellar warfare. Nobody in the chamber had seriously considered them a decisive factor in a war of this magnitude. We've barely used their fleet, Oram said slowly. Their government has been requesting greater involvement since the war began. And the Council kept declining, citing insufficient combat data on their capabilities. Then let's stop declining, Voth said. Send the formal request. Whatever they can spare. The response came back from Earth's High Command within 6 hours. Shorter than anyone expected. And stranger. 1 ship is being dispatched. ETA to Ithara Front, 18 hours. Please advise Coalition forces to clear the engagement zone. Voth read the message 3 times. Certain she was misunderstanding it. 1 ship, she said to her aide. The Skarn have committed an estimated 4,000 vessels to this front. And Earth is sending 1 ship. That's what the transmission says, Marshal. Confirm the request, Voth said. Make certain they understand the scale of what they're facing. The confirmation came back unchanged. Understood. 1 ship is sufficient. Please clear the engagement zone as requested. Against every instinct honed by 3 decades of Coalition command, Voth ordered the withdrawal. She pulled what remained of Coalition forces back from the Ithara engagement zone to observe from a safe distance. Uncertain whether she was witnessing a demonstration of confidence, or the opening act of a catastrophic misunderstanding. The human vessel arrived precisely on schedule. A single ship, sleek and unremarkable in profile, dwarfed by the sheer scale of the Skarn armada spread across the sector like a slow-moving storm front. Voth watched the tactical display from the bridge of her flagship, hovering at the edge of long-range sensor range. She felt something close to despair as the vessel's designation resolved on her screen. ESV Meridian. Concordance class. Single vessel. No escort. They sent 1 ship against 4,000, her tactical officer said, disbelief plain in his voice. This is going to be a massacre. Voth said nothing. She watched the display, bracing herself for the moment the Skarn fleet turned its full attention toward the single intruder, and erased it from existence within seconds. That moment never came the way she expected. The Meridian did not engage the Skarn fleet directly. Instead, Voth watched its sensor signature shift, spreading outward across an impossibly wide area, blanketing the entire Ithara sector in something her analysts could not immediately classify. Skarn communication traffic, which had been a constant, coordinated hum across the sector for 6 days straight, began fragmenting within minutes. Ships lost contact with command nodes. Formations broke their careful, mechanized synchronization. Individual vessels found themselves suddenly, inexplicably isolated from the network that had made their advance so devastatingly efficient. What is that? Voth demanded. She watched Skarn formations begin drifting out of alignment across her display, their legendary coordination dissolving in real time. Unknown, her tactical officer said. He scrambled through data that did not match anything in coalition records. It's not a weapon in any conventional sense. It's, Marshal, it looks like they've severed the entire sector's command network. Every Skarn vessel out there is currently operating on independent, isolated protocols. They've lost the ability to coordinate as a fleet. The Skarn Ascendancy's advance had never relied on individual ship superiority. Voth had studied their doctrine extensively over 11 days of increasingly desperate War Council sessions. Their strength came from absolute, mechanized coordination. Thousands of vessels moving as a single, unified organism. No independent decision-making required at any level below command. It was a doctrine built for overwhelming, inexorable advance. It was also, Voth realized, watching the fragmenting formations on her display, a doctrine with exactly one catastrophic vulnerability. One that no coalition species had ever managed to identify or exploit in 3 years of war. Isolated from their network, without centralized coordination directing their movements, individual Skarn vessels began making independent tactical decisions for what her analysts later confirmed was likely the first time in the Ascendancy's entire military history. And they did so badly. They collided with formation partners. Misjudged engagement ranges. Fired on positions their coordinated doctrine would never have targeted. What had been an unstoppable unified advance 6 hours earlier dissolved, within a single engagement window, into 4,000 confused, isolated vessels with no framework for independent operation. By the time the Meridian sensor field finally lifted, the Skarn advance at Ithara had not merely stalled. It had collapsed entirely. Scattered vessels retreated in directions that suggested panic more than strategy. An armada that had conquered an entire sector in 6 days had been reduced to disorganized fragments within 18 hours of a single ship's arrival. Voth received the transmission from the Meridian's captain 3 hours later. Brief. Almost apologetic in tone. Ithara Front secured. Recommend coalition forces reoccupy sector at your discretion. We identified the Skarn command architecture during the border skirmishes your council declined to escalate. Figured it was worth confirming properly before mentioning it. Voth sat with that message for a long time. Staring out at the drifting, disoriented remnants of an armada that had, mere hours earlier, seemed poised to end the war entirely. Marshal, her aide said quietly. Should I draft a formal request for greater human fleet involvement going forward? Voth almost laughed. Exhaustion and disbelief tangled together into something she did not have a better word for. Draft it, she said. And this time, let's not wait 4 years to actually listen to the answer.